Now, if you've seen Avengers Infinity War, then I shouldn't have to explain how powerful Thanos, the Mad Titan, really is. I mean, he managed to casually wipe the floor with two of the strongest characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Hulk and Thor, without breaking a sweat in the first few minutes of the movie. So yeah, the Avengers are clearly going to need some extra help when they face off against Thanos again in Avengers Endgame. And while we know they get some help almost immediately in the form of the newly returned Captain Marvel, is it possible that they could also be getting some help from some unlikely sources? Like maybe Hela, Thor and Loki's antagonistic sister last seen in 2017's Thor Ragnarok.
Oh wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
I know, it sounds insane, and it probably is, but there's been a ton of leaks, casting calls, and a bunch of other pieces of evidence released over the course of Endgame's production that at least make it seem possible that Hela could be one of the major factors in helping defeat Thanos. Now, I don't normally do this for theory videos, but considering how this is Endgame we're talking about, I'm going to be dropping a spoiler warning on this video, just in case anything I say here does manage to make it into the movie. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the evidence. Now, according to a leak posted on the Marvel Studios spoiler subreddit about a year ago, the plot of Avengers Endgame draws inspiration from Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, featuring a Sam and Frodo-esque team-up between two heroes, who are most likely Captain America and Iron Man, considering how it feels like they'll have a decent amount of scenes together throughout this movie, with Thor playing the role of Aragorn, and recruiting a ghostly army. This was also backed up by a leak on 4chan claiming that Thor's subplot focused on him assembling an army to fight Thanos. Now, to be fair, there is always the chance that these are just fake leaks, but considering how the same Reddit post also called a lot of other things that popped up in Infinity War, like Thanos dealing with multiple heroes at the same time, and Thor's epic entrance in Wakanda, I'm more inclined to believe that this could be real. There were also a few casting calls for Infinity War, under its production name Mary Lou, calling for Vikings in background roles, with all three not only claiming that anybody in those roles would be wearing varying amounts of makeup, but with the last one specifically also hinting that there might possibly be some kind of action scenes involved, hence the call for people in good physical shape for a warrior role. Now sure, you could maybe argue that these were just for the background Asgardians that died in the beginning of Infinity War, but that doesn't seem possible when you consider that Hela had already killed most of the Asgardian army by the end of Thor Ragnarok, meaning very few Viking-esque warriors should be featured during Thanos' assault. And on top of that, we also got a quick mention from the Asgardian in the beginning of Infinity War that there really aren't that many warriors on board the Statesman.
Our crew is made up of Asgardian families. We have very few soldiers here.
Even the ones that are there really aren't doing any kind of physical activity, well, with their being dead and all, so there's that. Oh, and if you look closely enough, you'll notice that there's also no warrior-looking guys with beards anywhere in the scene. Outside of Heimdall and Thor, there's really only women, children, beardless men, and maybe some aliens or something lying around the ship. If these casting calls really were for the opening of the movie, then where'd all the beards go? And on top of all of that, don't forget that both Infinity War and Endgame were shot back to back and originally intended as part 1 and 2 of a single huge movie, meaning the casting calls for the first one could have easily been shifted to the second after the decision was made to make Endgame more of its own sequel. So, okay, fine. Let's say all this means that we'll be seeing Thor recruit some undead Vikings at some point during Endgame. That still doesn't tell us how he manages to recruit this army in the first place. I mean, yeah, he may be one of the most powerful Asgardians ever, but that still doesn't mean he could use something like the Eternal Flame like Hela was able to. Assuming it didn't get blown up or something like everything else anyway. Well, I guess he could just find Hela and ask her for help. Seemed to work with Loki, so why not, right? Now, I know some of you guys might be saying, but wait a minute, comics, doesn't Hela die at the end of Ragnarok? I mean, Surtur stabbed or crushed her or whatever with his sword. And yeah, it does look like that, but if you slow the movie down and look really closely, you can see that Hela actually disappears in a flash of green light just before she would have been killed. Obviously, I'm not entirely sure where all she would have gone, but considering how she was on the losing end of a fight with Surtur and Asgard was about to be destroyed, my best guess is that she just went back to wherever Odin banished her to in the first place. Wherever she went, I'm assuming she's going to play some kind of role in the fight against Thanos because of the aforementioned Viking warriors, the fact that Cate Blanchett was spotted during what many assumed was the filming of some Endgame footage at Durham Cathedral in England back in 2017, and this comment from spoiler machine Mark Ruffalo during an appearance on the I Am Rappaport podcast.
Tilda Swinton I just worked with,
What's
who
she
is
like?
amazing. She is freaking unbelievably good and present and playful and sweet and funny. I had a little bit with Cate Blanchett.
But all that having been said though, why would Hela help Thor fight against Thanos? I mean, after everything that happened the last time she saw him, Hela probably wouldn't be all that thrilled with Thor just strolling in demanding stuff. Well, we do have two options to consider here. One possibility is that Thanos' snap does send half of all life in the universe to the Soul Stone, like most people assumed, rather than Hell or the underworld or whatever, so Hela could be pretty angry with Thanos over missing out on all those souls. But that's also assuming that A, there actually is a version of Hell or whatever in the MCU.
Thor, report on the Hulk?
The gates of hell are filled with the screams of his victims.
See you in hell, monster.
And B, non-magical, non-godly type characters like Asgardians
We are not gods.
can access it or outright control it. Of course, the other option is that Hela and Thor work out some sort of arrangement for the army he wants. We've seen in the comics that Hela has allowed others to leave her realm in the past, but usually only through the sacrifice of another.
A soul for a soul.
So if something like Hell or the underworld or whatever in the MCU does exist and Hela does rule that realm, maybe Thor can go there, make a deal to get an army to fight with, but he has to return to Hell with all the undead soldiers as his form of payment. Or maybe Hela has to use some kind of life energies to bring back this army and Thor volunteers himself and maybe that's how he dies in this movie or something. Either way, this could also set up the female Thor storyline in the MCU, assuming Kevin Feige and the Russos are willing to change a few things and have Valkyrie become the new Thor instead, since arguably she'd be the most likely woman in his life at this point in time to be the most affected by his sacrifice. This is something Kevin Feige once claimed he'd possibly be interested in doing at some point, stating in a 2017 interview with Movies.com, "We always look back to the comics to get those ideas. Sometimes very specific storylines like Civil War, sometimes just nuggets or characters like Planet Hulk. So anything that's happened in the comics, even a female Thor, becomes great potentials and the ideas from which future movies can be born. But that's something we probably won't see for a good while anyway. Either way, I guess we'll see what all happens with Thor and this army of his when Endgame rolls around later this month. But anyways guys, that's my take on whether or not Hela is going to be a major part of the Avengers' plan to defeat Thanos during Avengers Endgame. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or if you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.